A phone call is a simple thing. A signal, a voice on the other end, vibrational sound waves reaching around the entire globe with ease and precision. But what if I told you there had been reports of calls from numbers that no longer exist? Calls placed not from one town to another, but allegedly from one side of death to the other. In 1979, parapsychologists D. Scott Rogo and Raymond Bayless published a book unlike any before it. It wasn't a study of ghosts or of psychics, but of a peculiar category of encounters where communication came not through mediums, but through landlines. There is something uniquely disquieting about a ringing telephone. It demands your attention. It pierces the silence, and of course, demands an answer. And in the late 20th century, dozens of cases emerged in which phones rang long after the subscriber was dead. The line had long been disconnected, but still the phone would ring. One such case, and the one that kicked me off looking into this, occurred in England in the mid-1970s, where a man began receiving calls from a number that once belonged to his mother. She had passed away several months earlier, and the number had been deactivated by what was then the post office. And anybody who's old enough to remember Busby will also remember that, yes, before BT, the post office ran the phone lines. This man answered the ringing telephone, and when he picked up, there was nothing, just static, until one evening he said her name aloud. And then the voice that responded was unmistakably that of his mother, soft and far away, and filled with sorrow. The following are not stories from tabloids. They were documented by these parapsychologists in their book Phone Calls from the Dead, and many were later examined by the Society for Psychical Research, and while no definite cause has been established, theories range from residual energy to psychokinesis to some form of disembodied consciousness, whatever that may be, using electronic means to reach across the divide. The majority of the book deals with America, so here we go with Case 1, the Lee Epps Call. Don Owens of Toledo, Ohio, reported a deeply unsettling experience in the pages of Fate magazine. In October of 1968, his wife answered the telephone at precisely 10:30 p.m. It was a close friend, Lee Epps, recognizable by voice, manner, and a pet name that he alone used for her. He called her Sis. "Sis," he said, "tell Don I'm feeling pretty bad. I've never felt this way before. Tell him to get in touch with me the minute he comes in. It's important." Ethel Owens relayed the message to her husband when he returned home shortly afterwards. He called repeatedly, but there was no answer. Later that night, they discovered the shocking truth that Lee Epps had actually been lying comatose in Mercy Hospital, very close by. He died at exactly 10:30 p.m., the precise time of the call. From a medical standpoint, of course this is impossible. Deep coma patients, especially those in terminal stages, cannot rouse and cannot speak clearly, nor can they manipulate devices, but the call was made, and the voice was recognized. Case number 2, Ruby Calls from Beyond. So Viola Tolan of Indianapolis received a phone call one evening from a voice she hadn't heard in years. It was the soft voice of a child, one she recognized but couldn't quite place. The caller said, "They told me I couldn't telephone, but I just did, didn't I?" When asked who she was, the child replied, "You know me. I'm Ruby." Ruby had died young. Her father, Davis Stone, was a family friend recovering from a crippling accident at the time, and the voice had not said what was wrong, but Tolan knew. She rushed next door, and she found Davis unconscious and slumped in a position that could quite easily have left him permanently paralysed. She woke him up just in time. Whoever, or whatever, made the call may just have saved his life. The third case here, the Gelb incident. So Dr. Lester Gelb, a psychoanalyst from Riverdale, New York, was preparing to leave home for a family outing when the phone rang. He answered, and one single word came. Lester? Spoken in the unmistakable voice of his deceased mother. She had died months earlier, but this wasn't a faint whisper. He described the voice as vivid and clear and emotionally distinct. She had a particular crackle, a tone, a manner of speaking that he knew intimately. It was her. He asked repeatedly for the caller's identity, but the voice simply repeated his name again and again, and then came a sharp, clacking sound, and the line went dead. He was deeply affected, but remained professionally skeptical. He told investigators, I don't have a clear explanation for what I experience. Therefore, I remain intrigued. Case number 4, the McConnell conversation. So Bonnie and C.E. McConnell of Tucson received a Sunday evening call from a friend named Enid Jolson, a former author and philanthropist that they had lost touch with. Enid explained that she had just been transferred to a local care home. She sounded cheerful and healthy, and they actually spoke for 30 minutes. Enid's voice was clear. She remembered old holidays, and they laughed and reminisced, and when Bonnie offered to bring her a bottle of blackberry brandy for her upcoming birthday, Enid declined and simply said, "Oh, I don't need it now." 5 days later, Bonnie called the care home to follow up, and a nurse informed her that Enid had passed away that previous Sunday, several hours before the call took place. Both McConnells were on the line during the conversation. They both heard the same voice, and both confirmed the timing. Our 5th case is the D'Alessio call. Mary D'Alessio, a New Jersey resident, woke up from a troubling dream about an old childhood friend named Lana. Feeling unsettled, she decided to call her, and to her surprise, Lana answered the phone immediately. She sounded slightly ill, but lucid, and she said she'd recently returned home from a hospital stay and was due to go back the next day. They spoke for several minutes, and Lana even promised to call back soon. But she never did. And when Mary tried to reach her again, nobody answered. Eventually she contacted a neighbour and learned that Lana had died not recently, but over 6 months prior to the call. But the call had been real. Her husband heard the conversation too. The voice unmistakable, but the timeline was impossible. Lana had been dead for over half a year. Yet they had spoken for several minutes with a promise to call back soon. Case number 6, Aunt Lorraine remembers. Whilst investigating a UFO incident in Ohio, psychiatrist Dr. Berthold Schwartz was told a different kind of story, one that didn't have anything to do with flying objects. Mrs. Sherin, the mother of a primary UFO witness, recounted a call she had received 18 months after the tragic death of her Aunt Lorraine. The two had been very close, like sisters, actually. One night the phone rang, and a familiar voice greeted her. They reminisced, places they'd been, things they'd done together, a natural, flowing conversation that lasted almost a half an hour. Only after hanging up did Mrs. Sherin remember the absolutely impossible fact that the woman she had just spoken to was actually dead. She had died instantly in a car accident about 7 months earlier. Shaken, she tried calling the number back, but nobody answered. Dr. Schwartz noted her emotional response and her clarity, and what disturbed him the most was her total, temporary forgetting, as though she had been helped to forget during the call itself. And at first glance, it's easy to dismiss these stories. The telephone, after all, is a technical device, isn't it? It's governed by wires and switches and signals, and yet, in case after case, those very mechanisms seem to have somehow been circumvented or piggybacked onto. Voices are heard from disconnected lines, calls are made without records, names are spoken that no stranger could know. One early hypothesis is the idea of residual energy, that intense emotion, particularly at the moment of death, might imprint itself on a device, creating a kind of echo. These calls, in that view, are not a conversation as such, but they are rather playbacks, almost a mechanical haunting. But many of the examples we've explored don't support this, because the voices respond, they converse, and they remember. Besides, what does the phrase imprint itself on a device actually mean anyway? A second possibility is psychokinesis, where the subconscious mind, perhaps under extreme stress or grief, might unconsciously manipulate electronic equipment. It is rare, but experiments in parapsychology have shown low-level effects on electronic random number generators, for example, and some other devices. Could the living be producing the illusion of a call, unknowingly somehow? Researchers such as Konstantin Rodiv and Friedrich Jürgensen and others in the field of instrument transcommunication have long believed that electronic devices are more permeable than we give to understand. If, after all, consciousness is a vibration, and energy is a vibration, and sound is a vibration, then consciousness could become sound itself. Consciousness could become energy itself. There are bigger questions here that we will look at in other videos. Of course, there's the question of time itself, isn't there? What if these calls are not from beyond death as such, but from outside time as we know it? Conversations sort of folded into the wrong moment, like a letter posted years ago that just suddenly arrives today. The case, such as the McConnell's cases, where both participants hear the voice clearly, sort of fall into this category. It leaves us with a question, doesn't it, of can our machines lie to us? Can our machines deceive us? Or can they be used as instruments of deception? As we careen into the AI future, who knows what untold horrors may be reported by innocent end users in the future? Because the telephone was meant to bridge distance, but these cases suggest it's bridging a lot more, and whether we see that as a comfort or frightening might not depend on quite what we believe, but rather what we hear the next time we answer a call. Introducing the Eeries Vault Patreon page, a treasure trove of research notes, newspaper and magazine clippings, exclusive on-location video content, early access to public videos, and access to the Erie Isles interactive Google map with countless sighting and encounter locations for you to peruse at your leisure. This will be updated each time a new video is released and will become one of the most comprehensive encounters maps in the world. With membership options from as little as £1 per month. What are you waiting for? Head over to the Vault. Eeries Vault Live is a live stream show here on YouTube where you, the viewer, can have a call about your own stories about the weird, the paranormal and the unexplained. The show starts at 9 PM GMT every Friday night, and we want to hear your stories. You can also email your stories ahead of the show to be read out live on air. Just send an email to eeriesvault@gmail.com with your story, opinion, or suggestions relating to high strangeness and the unexplained. That's Eeries Vault Live, Fridays at 9 PM GMT, here on YouTube.